Hi, I'm Chinwe. In this podcast, I am thrilled to bring you an incredible lineup of guests, ordinary women who have harnessed their struggles into powerful transformations. No matter your background or backstory, their experiences will resonate with you and will inspire you to let go of the limiting narratives shaped by your circumstance, upbringing, or past programming. We can all achieve greater freedom and happiness in our everyday lives, and my guests are here to tell you how. So, come on, let's dive into season 2 of Beyond 9 to 5. Hey everyone. Okay, so today my guest is a woman who is navigating the challenges of raising 2 teenage boys in our fast-paced, social media-driven world. Refreshingly down to earth, she is a model, a radio presenter, and her story is both relatable and empowering. We will explore what success looks like for women in today's world, and as well as the delicate art of balancing a thriving career while raising 2 young teenagers and being a present and loving parent. And so, should we get ready to soak in the wisdom and warmth that is my friend, Hazel Butterfield?
Thank you. What a great intro.
Oh, hi, Hazel. I do like to prepare the intro for all of my guests because I think it's really important that we, and it's hard for me to do, by the way, to kind of put in, 3 or 4 sentences of what people need to know about you. As a person, and I think you're remarkable.
That's very kind of you.
I really do think so. So basically, I really feel I can call you a friend, right? Even though we met just over a year ago when one of my team arranged for me to come on your radio show, right? And I was coming from a very sort of straight-laced medical background and you from a more sort of social type of enterprise, but I couldn't believe how ordinary and uncomplicated and comfortable our conversation got, right, really quickly. Why do you think that was? Like from literally,
I think we were quite aligned with our kind of ethos towards life and goals, and also sometimes you just find people that get you as well. I think we met chatting on one of my radio shows, and I'm one of these people that I want to make people feel comfortable because you get the most from them. We're not here to kind of compete against each other, but I think we had quite a giggle, and then we got to go out for a little bit of a brunch afterwards. Yeah. And then I think we've got very similar ideals for our kids and similar goals and same kind of parenting styles as well. I met your daughter, and she was just an absolute delight. And
Thank you.
I mean, if you meet my kids, they would appear to be a delight. I mean, close the door and the sarcasm comes out.
Well, they all have it, trust me. I do get moments when, it's like, okay. And do you know what? I think that's really important because, in a way, you're a book reader and so am I, right? That thing about not judging a book by its cover, or not judging an experience before you've actually had it, or don't judge a connection before you've had it. It's so important, isn't it?
It is. And, really randomly, I went into a bookshop the other day, and although I would hate to ever, use that whole euphemism of don't judge a book by its cover, but I was judging what book I wanted to read by the cover. I wanted a fancy cover, and I was just sitting there going, I am just constantly contradicting myself. And I was just sitting there going, I don't want to read that. I want to read that book because it looks great. I was looking at Gillian Anderson's one.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, I love the way that looks. And then I actually read about it. I was like, nah, not my thing.
Friendships, connections, they are literally everywhere, And can I just tell you one other thing? Coming from my, in quotes, I don't know why I'm calling it a straight-laced medical background, I still feel very comfortable with this, uncomfortable with this microphone, right?
Well, it's different to what you're used to. You're coming from a very academic kind of background.
Structured.
And this is, and whereas this is more, I'm assuming that you want a lot of your podcast to be more of a comfortable nature and tone, which is, it's not your wheelhouse, is it?
No.
You're supposed to be
learning.
Yeah, it's you have to have a certain level of professionalism in your other careers. So you've got to learn to switch quite quickly. But at the same time, every guest you have will be different. Yeah. So you very quickly learn what kind of attitude you need to have to bring the best out of somebody, and whether you can just sit there and have the most ridiculously fun time.
I know.
Or rein it in.
I mean, doing this podcast has been a massive learning curve for me. One of the reasons I'm doing it as well is because I knew it was going to be a learning curve for me, and I thought, why not
challenge yourself?
Yeah. Do you know what? This start of this year, my girls and I, we were thinking about what would be the way to go in terms of attitude generally, this year. And we came up with this phrase, and it's actually more of a sound, and it's like, yeah. I don't know how to spell it. Yeah. So we decided that for not to get too stuck up with things, to relax, to take things as they come, and explore and be freer in the way we approach things. And so we thought that we should learn how to say, let's just do it anyway.
So do you think the accurate kind of translation of is go with the flow?
Go with the flow, yes.
Go what feels right.
Yeah, exactly.
I like it because you can go off in so many different directions, and you don't know sometimes. I mean, I've been presenting for nearly a decade, and I love it though. Even I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth, and I do live radio.
That must be a lot of pressure though.
It can be, but when you get it right,
because you're never going to take it back. Like, there's no.
I mean, sometimes I do. Sometimes I go. But I think if you make mistakes and if you say something a little bit silly, and especially as women as well, sometimes we will just mid-sentence forget what we were saying, or we'll trip over our words. But if you do that, if you make mistakes, then it makes the other person feel more comfortable.
Yeah, true.
If you're perfect, what's that like for other people?
Yeah, true.
It's ridiculous.
Plus, no one is really perfect, so it's all a bit
sounds incredibly dull.
I know, boring and hard work, a lot of hard work. What were you like as a teenager? Because I'm just wondering, maybe we can compare notes and untangle why Chinwe and Hazel hit it off first. Maybe there's a connection.
I'd be interested actually, because I was an incredibly awkward teenager. I was ridiculously shy, and I would just say stupid things. Sometimes, so I went to drama college, but I was even quite shy in drama college. But because I was not comfortable around people who were my age, because I just knew I'd say something stupid, and I thought I'd just end up getting bullied. So I used to work a lot. So I would work with people who were a lot older than me, and I felt so much comfortable as a 15, 16-year-old hanging out with 20-year-olds, and which meant I worked a lot. I mean, at 16, I think I had 5 different jobs.
Really?
Oh yeah, it was brilliant, because I enjoyed being at work, but I enjoyed working and hanging out with people a little bit older than me than hanging out with my peers, because I always just felt like an awkward potato.
Bless. Well, for me, I think I wasn't much of a hang out with my peers sort of person as well. I think I was more like the one good friend was enough for me, and I actually preferred my books. So in a way, I spent a lot of time with adults, but in books, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So I'd read a lot, and that was my escape. If I wasn't hanging out with my 1 or 2 close friends, I was in a different world altogether with all the characters, which were mainly adults as well, isn't it? So in a way, I guess we're similar in that way. And so sorry, go on. Yeah.
I was going to say, I mean, my poor mum, we did not have a lot of money when we were younger, But the poor love, she had to buy me a book a day because I would get through that much. And when it wasn't a book a day, there was the local cat knocking on the door going, meow, is Hazel available? And my mum would just open the door and the neighbours' cats would just come upstairs. When she bought me a dog, I mean, I would just disappear for hours on end. It was cats, dogs, books, or, you know, just hanging out with older people.
Yeah.
It was a bit weird.
So basically, right, and my jaw dropped when you told me this, that you bought your first property when you were 18, right? So I'm assuming from what you've said that your family wasn't rich, and they weren't rich and famous. Were they rich and famous with lots of money and gave you money to buy your own property?
Completely not. So the situation is, first of all, I was brought up in Huddersfield, so, you know, we're not talking, I didn't buy a £500,000 house when I was 18. I bought a 3-bedroomed house, which was quite nice, you know. But it was like 50 grand, which was still a lot, you know, 20 odd years ago. But because I've always worked and I've always had a really strong working ethic, if you're not brought up with money, you have a lot more respect for it. Yeah. And because I worked, as I said before, 5 jobs, I would be putting away quite a lot a month. And so I signed for my house on my 18th birthday because I don't think I was legally allowed to buy one before I was 18. So on my 18th birthday, trundled down. I'd had it all ready and they were all good to go.
But why a house? Why not a nice dress or a bag? Or
it's never like that.
Yeah.
It's because I kind of wanted to set myself up. I mean, I get quite anxious and I wanted to set myself up. If I've got savings or if I've got financial grounding, I feel a bit more comfortable to go. I used to travel all the time, but it was cheaper to pay a mortgage than it was to pay rent. Yeah. And also, back when I was 18, you could get like 105% mortgages. I didn't, but if you wanted to do it, a lot of people just didn't want the responsibility. I did. Yeah. I wanted to set myself up. If I'd have stayed in Huddersfield, I'd have probably bought my second house by the time I was 20 and but, you know.
Wow. I mean, I'm still worried about it, only because you're saying all this and I'm thinking about my own experience about buying property and I'm thinking, oh, girl, you've got a lot to learn. Having said that, you know, I wasn't born here in the UK. I came over to the UK as an adult, basically. So, you know, my property acquiring journey has been, we'll talk about that later. If you guys, that'll be another season altogether. But
this is actually going to be a podcast in 12 sections.
Yes. But do you know what? The other thing I was going to talk to you about is, while we were talking the other day, I said to you that, you know, I think you're an influencer, right? Because you're a radio presenter, you're a model, you know. And I said to you, I think you're an influencer.
Not really a model anymore. That was a long time ago. I mean,
it's a bit like I'm not a doctor anymore. Does it not work that way? I can't say I'm not, because once you're a doctor, always a doctor.
I don't. The last time I got paid to do any modelling was probably quite some time ago.
Really?
Yeah.
What's wrong with them? You should.
I know. Yeah. I don't know. Why can't? I mean, that would be fun.
It would be fun, isn't it? But anyway, I said to you, I think you're an influencer, and you were like, no, I don't quite meet the. I forget what your words were exactly. I don't quite meet the criteria for that. What is?
Because I don't. I think a social media influencer, first of all, they put more time into it. They've got a lot more followers and they've got a lot more focused goals. Whereas, you know, some weeks I can be on social media loads and I might not do anything for a week or two. But I like to not take life too seriously. And I think social media influencers have a very strong brand and they've got to stick to that brand to really kind of see success. Whereas, you know, I'll put something silly up. I might be drinking a cocktail somewhere. I might be doing some weird activity. I mean, yesterday I was doing puppy yoga and that was all over my social media.
I saw that post. That was so cute.
If you want to see Londoners,
adorable.
you've got to do it. If you want to see Londoners at their finest, stand in a queue of people who are about to spend an hour with puppies or are coming down past you because they've just spent an hour with puppies, and you see the best of people. They're just like, I'm so happy.
Even looking at the pictures, I was like, oh my goodness.
I was literally at one point, I didn't know whether I was going to cry with happiness or not. But, I like to, my social media is very much kind of, this is what's happening on my show, or this is what I've done with my kids, or kind of taking the mickey out of myself, or inspiring people to kind of do fun and silly things. It's not focused. I'm not focusing on health and fitness route, or I've got lots of different things that I'm interested in. And I think a social media influencer has very strict goals, and I don't. Sometimes I'm just a bit ridiculous.
Well, thanks for clarifying that, because I've been using that word very loosely, even on people. When I talk to them, I said we all need to show up online, and we need to show up as influencers, right?
Yeah.
And I guess there's technically, perhaps there's a professional influencer, social media influencer, and then there's the rest of us who are showing up, but who I think we still have the responsibility to show up in a way, knowing that we are influencing someone somewhere is watching out what we're putting out there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think you're probably more right than I are, because I think I was kind of thinking, am I a social media influencer? Would I put it on my mortgage application? No.
I don't think even they can. Can they?
Yeah.
Oh, did they?
It's actually a profession. Hundreds of thousands.
I know, right?
That's buying a good house.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Right.
Mine sometimes buys me lunch.
Yeah.
In Weatherspoons.
So, now we've clarified that, because... basically, because I think it's one of those terms that is, and I guess it's evolving as well, right?
I think it's subjective as well.
It's subjective and evolving, isn't it? There is a lot that's going on online now around female empowerment. And yet everywhere in the news, it feels to me, although I don't technically watch the news a lot, but actually in the news, it feels to me like almost the exact opposite is happening. The policies, the politics, the law, they're not workplace even sometimes. A bit better now with workplace, but they're not really reflecting all the femininity and the empowerment energy that I perceive online. Do you agree? Is that, or is that just me?
I think it's nonsense. I think there's a lot of people who, for example, I was talking about this the other day with somebody. Look at what happened to Blake Lively a couple of months ago. This is a successful woman who is constantly having ridiculous kind of humorous conversations online with her husband. She's got 4 kids. She's got 5 now, maybe. She looks fantastic. Her career is going really well. Everyone seems to kind of just think she's fantastic. And then all of a sudden, there was a seed of doubt that possibly she wasn't perfect while she was doing the press junkets for It Ends With Us, the Colleen Hoover movie. And you then saw the ugly side of the media, because they saw the slightest strain of somewhere they could go in and beat this woman with, who is such a success. And I was just like, great, you feel like this gives you a red light to do it. And the vitriol was horrific. And I was so disappointed. But do you know what? As soon as they see the slightest gap where they can bring a successful woman down, oh, look at her, she's bossy. Yeah. Oh, look at her, she's done this. Oh, look at her, she's had some work done. Oh, it's just... I was not very happy with that in any way, shape or form. There's some great stuff out there, but social media is nonsense. I speak to... I mean, I'm a bit like you. I don't like the news. I think it's nonsense. I think it is warped. It's warped. It's so dishonest. And I quite often, my kids will say around the dinner table, oh, have you seen this on the news? And I'm like, no, and I'm not interested, because your feed has been engineered towards what you keep on clicking on. And it is such nonsense and skewed. And I want you to get slightly more varied input from different outlets. And like, oh yeah, mums always say that, you know, it's not true or whatever. And I'm just like, just have your own opinion and just be mindful that, I mean, that I could literally be in my kitchen chatting to you about a banana bread I made, and then all of a sudden there'll be adverts for bananas coming through on my iPad. And it's that dodgy.
It does feel like nothing is like...
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
It does feel... So for me, I have this feed coming in, and there's a lot going on about female empowerment. And then there is the news that is telling me otherwise, basically. But actually, what's your day-to-day experience of female empowerment? Because I think it's better generally. You know, in the workplace, for instance, I am seeing some improvements in interactions, like, you know, everyday interaction. Well,
I'm very lucky because I have an incredible friendship group, and we're all quite strong women with good and varied and interesting careers, strong opinions, and we're all quite independent, both financially and just we all seem to have found our people. We say whatever we want and we feel comfortable and safe. Yeah. So that's great, but you put yourself in a slightly different friendship group briefly and you can completely see a different scenario. So I think as we get older, we sometimes become a bit more insular because we find something that works for us and we don't want to risk
stick to it.
I think there are some incredible things. There's some great outlets out there. I've got a new job and I've seen the way that everyone behaves there. I absolutely love it. But you can have a day where everyone behaves incredibly, and then you can have a day where you just see the most horrific examples of human existence. I think there is a lot of positive female empowerment out there, but as I said, I think there are so many people that are teetering on the edge of looking for an excuse to bash a successful woman.
And we're not having it. I think no, seriously. I think although, you know, they may have the news or the news outlets, right? And this is why I say that enough of us need to keep showing up online, especially because it feels like there's this separate
not
universe.
Just online.
Not just exactly, but you know, we should show up, and we should because if we don't and we decide, okay, we're not going to be part of it or speak up, then there's a real risk that those behaviors will take even more root. And
it's tough because there's still some people out there that think that women should be less seen and heard, and we need to shove those people back in their box a little bit. But also, you know, find your people. If somebody's not showing up how you want them to, you can find people that are. And sometimes just if people don't have the same opinion as you, as long as these opinions are damaging, you know, hang out with people that are aligned with you, you know?
True. How I'd be interested to know, right? Because I've got a teenage daughter, and we talk about, you know, things that the internet, online, female empowerment. You got 2 boys, right?
I have.
So what's the conversation like in terms of female empowerment? Does it come up at all, or
it's not intentional? But it's through just existing every single day. I've predominantly raised them. I split up with their father when they were quite young, but to be honest, he worked such long hours that even when we were together, it was predominantly just myself anyway. And so I think everything that I do shows them female empowerment. I do everything for them. They see that I've had various different jobs to make sure that I can be there for them. I show them how to have balance. I also think that I was raised never to actually question what women can do. I mean, my own grandmother, who is, if she was still alive, she died a couple of years ago, but if she was alive now, she'd be 98. But back in the 40s and 50s, she was a magistrate, mother of 4, ran a mental health institution, which is what they were, you know, called back then. And she had many jobs, but I'm talking big jobs for. I mean, that would be impressive if she did it in 2025, but she was doing it in the 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
So we were raised to just blast it and ignore anything that we thought, you know, that's bizarre that a woman should be doing that. So my kids see me doing that. They see me doing live radio, presenting on shows, working lots of different jobs, and they see me hanging out with some fantastic friends. And I think all of that just shows strength of character. They see a lot of my friends as their family.
Ladies, pause for a moment and imagine this. A circle of women, strong, talented, wise and powerful, all in one place, ready to support you through tough times and to celebrate the good ones too. Picture a safe space where you can truly be yourself. A sisterhood that lifts you up, empowers you, and where we can share invaluable experiences with each other. Now, what if I can tell you that circle is right in your hands? Introducing Health Mary app. Health, well-being and lifestyle solutions for women by women. All you have to do is download the app. It's free and it's all the girl power you need. It's one thing talking the talk, you need to walk the walk. And I think this just brings this home, isn't it? So if you're walking the walk and living the experience, then you know, especially those who look up to you or who depend on you, then can feed off of that and learn from that. And do you think that there is, having teenage boys, right? Do you think that there's the way you communicate with them is different? You know how they say, men are from Mars and women are, am I getting it right? Men are from Mars and women are from Venus.
Yeah,
yes.
That's the right way around.
And
I think.
Yes. And that technically we kind of communicate and interact differently, right? So do you find there's a thing there when you're raising teen boys versus teen girls?
I think it's hard for me to accurately say because I don't have girls, so I don't know how I would have spoken to them. I think I see my friends' girls and I speak to them exactly how I speak to my kids. And it seems to kind of work well. But we're kind of a rough and ready, sarcastic bunch. I suspect the girl would be very similar to me. I mean, I was never really a girly girl, so I can't definitely say one way or another whether I would speak to them differently. But I'm very open with my kids. I will talk to them about anything and everything, even, you know, God forbid, like the bits and pieces. I mean, they kind of, they actually know my cycle and things like that. We do. We do. And
that's actually very, very good.
But we will talk about anything because they should feel comfortable about it. I will speak to my kids. I mean, they pretend that they're not interested in my career in any way, shape or form. But if they do listen to this, obviously I need to be careful about what I would actually divulge. Mum, how dare you? But we do talk about anything and everything. And I do know that when they've had problems with their friends, whether that's their friends or their girlfriends, they have said to me, she's struggling with this. What can you suggest I should be doing? And they will come to me. But I'm a strong believer. I mean, my kids have seen me for, you know, my eldest, he's 18. He's seen me through 18 years of my life. He's seen me make some ridiculous mistakes. I've seen him make mistakes. But I'm very open about them. And I say to him, it's okay to kind of make mistakes, you know. Yeah. And I think it's important that we speak to our kids. We say to them, you can do this wrong. You can make these mistakes. I made these mistakes. Can you imagine how boring life would be? If you make mistakes, whether it's towards me, if they're rude to me, because kids are rude to their parents sometimes, they get stressed, they take it out on people who are closest to them. We have a rule. You apologise, you move on. Or you explain it. You know, I say to them, if you do something wrong to a friend, you apologise and you say, listen, I'm really sorry, I did this, inexcusable, and you know, as long as you just accept that you made a mistake and you learn from it, people are generally quite receptive to that. Yeah. But I like to show my kids that, you know, if they make mistakes, come to me, we'll talk it through, we'll try and find a way forward. Yeah. But I'd be very bored if they didn't make mistakes. Yeah,
I'm quite curious as well, because my son is 14, so he's about getting to And I worry at times because I am, in a way, I've had a bit of experience with Ola, who's 18, right? And she's a girl. And I'm, in a way, familiar with the conversations around social media, the pressures, peer pressure, all of that. But I'm not so much the same. I feel like I'm not quite prepared for Scott. What sort of pressures do you think they might be experiencing from sort of social? I keep saying social media as if it's necessarily a bad thing, guys, but I think everyone understands what I mean. Social influences. Yes, exactly.
I think it's horrific because there are, especially in COVID, there were some horrific things going around for very bored teenagers to get involved with. There was some horrific narratives which I had to kind of get on top of pretty quickly. I mean, it's no harder for men or for women. Women have their own challenges, but I think specifically for men and boys at the moment, they don't know whether they're supposed to be like uber fit and macho. They don't know whether they're supposed to be the breadwinner. They don't know whether they're supposed to open doors for their partner, whether it's male or female. Yeah. They don't know what their space is to be. And I think it's a little bit easier for women to kind of choose that for themselves. But for men, they can't do right for doing wrong. You know, one person will have one opinion. They want you to be sensitive. Another one will say, no, I want him to be macho and I want him to be manly and masculine and bulky. And I think it's so hard for them to decide. But I think it's all just about, I'm trying to teach my kids to just be authentic. If you can figure out what is comfortable for you, and then just go with it. And I think we've got more freedom in today's society to be who we want to be.
True. Yeah.
But it takes a lot of confidence to live authentically. But also, you know, you can be one thing when you're 16. You can be, you know, you can dress how you like. You can decide to change in 5 years' time. We're not set.
We're not stuck. Yeah.
And I think, but I do, it is very hard, and as I was saying before about making mistakes myself, my kids are going to make mistakes. They are going to see things online. They are going to do stupid things. I mean, I am so glad social media was not around when I was 16.
Oh, yeah. Do you know what, right? I know we do get judgy, right? But to be honest, I don't know what I would have done.
Been there, done that. But at least no one's recording it.
At least we're not on record.
It's just somebody's opinion, somebody's memory that's reliable.
I thought about it one day and I was like, oh my God, these poor kids.
Horrific.
Right? These poor kids, like I can't even. And I think you're so right about this, the expectations when it comes to, you know, men and boys. For me, it looks like there's a lot of expectation, no clear narrative even.
Well, the damned if they do, the damned if they don't.
Exactly, and then no support, no real, like women, we can chat, we can commune, we can, you know, get together, but that's not necessarily a channel for men, you know, these days, and I do feel their pain.
What I find quite interesting is, and even if my kids were going to listen and watch this podcast, that have switched off by now because they've got a very short attention span, so I'm fine now.
First 10 seconds is all I've got to
get. But what I tend to do with my kids is quite often, every few days or so, if I've worked a long day, I'll say, right, I've got to go and walk the dog, but it's dark, so I need one of you to come with me because I don't want to be walking the streets on my own as a woman, and they'll take it in turns. And once I've got them out there, they don't shut up. But they tell me everything. But because of the distraction of walking around in nature and the dog there, it's a brilliant way to just to get some proper information out of them.
Because I've heard and read that actually sitting them opposite to you and trying to say, what's up with your day? How can I help, Tom? How can I help? You know, that doesn't help. Men tend to not like that way of direct eye-to-eye communication. Whereas if you are doing something with them, like taking a
Lego
walk or something, they tend to kind of open up a bit more.
I mean, they're quite talkative, my ones anyway. Once they start, I'm like, oh, what have I started? But there's a fantastic company called Dose of Nature, especially near where I live in southwest London, and they do counselling outside in nature while you're walking, because it's a slight distraction, but also you're just taking in what's coming around you, and you feel a bit more inspired. And you're not like this. It's not face to face. So if you're getting upset, you can just carry on walking.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you need to just stop, you can hug a tree, feed a squirrel, whatever floats your boat.
Tree hugging. Oh, I digress. Oh my God, we're all over the place in this podcast today. But
I know, right?
But anyway, that's how it goes, Hazel. Tree hugging. Have you ever tree hugged?
No. Do you know what? I haven't. It's not my vibe. However,
I accidentally tree hugged one time. I loved it.
I'm sorry, I thought you were perfect.
Not quite how it worked, but somebody had told me about it, right? And I was having a bit of a day, to be honest, and I leaned on a tree, right? And I thought, I don't know why that conversation came to my mind, and I basically kind of turned around. I said, let me just hug this tree.
Right, yeah.
It felt good. It was a big tree, and then suddenly I was like, this tree has been here longer than I have. There was just something
hundreds of years. Sometimes.
Yes. And there was just something very humbling and very sturdy, and it felt like whatever problem I had seemed so small in that moment.
I think it was it's a bit like when you're starting to have an anxiety attack and they say, take in your surroundings, listen, name 3 things you can see, name 3 things.
That's right, yeah.
And I think, because I did the Dose of Nature counselling, and she did turn around to me and said, you're going to think I'm weird, but I want you to hug that tree. And I went, why? She goes, you don't have to actually physically hug it, but I want you to lean against it. I want you to feel the vibrations. And I'm going to tell you a few facts about this tree specifically, and just to help you kind of connect. And it's about connecting.
Yeah. You got a new role at the EA.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, do you know what? This is quite interesting because so I've always, especially over the last 10, 15 years, I've been quite strategic with my career. I want to have a career, I want to do interesting things, but it was my choice that I wanted to be about for my kids and to be a bit more present while still working. I wanted to show them that I had responsibilities somewhere else. They couldn't, they weren't going to be able to dominate my time. I used to work 3 days in an office, and then I'd do maybe one day working from home, podcasting, and then another day I did my live radio, and then occasionally there would be the odd modelling job or the odd promotional kind of outside broadcast kind of role. And it gave me the freedom to pretty much be there every single morning to either put out breakfast or to get them up or just to see them.
First contact in the day, isn't it?
Yeah. But it's also, I'm predominantly home either by 6 or I'm home 2 days a week before they got back from school and college. So it just meant that I made that choice that I wanted to be a little bit more around, because the dad wasn't necessarily, and sometimes you've got to make certain sacrifices. And actually I loved it, because I feel so much more calmer knowing what was going on. And we don't always have the freedom to do that. I think I was quite lucky. I mean, their dad appreciated he couldn't be around so much, and so there was a little bit of support there. But as they turned 15 and 18, I said, guys, how do you feel about me going back into a little bit more of a high-flying role? And it's going to be quite intense for a bit. But you guys ignore me a lot. Like, I get home, you're like, we're starving, what's for dinner? I produce dinner and you leave me for 3 hours. Anyway, and this role came up, and it was perfect. Do you know when things just fall into place and you kind of go, I'm making the right decision? And they were kind of like, yeah, we get it. That's fine. Yeah. We're cool with that. And it's actually turned out even better than what I imagined, because I can work from home quite a bit. So I'm actually more home. It's full-time, but I'm more home for my kids anyway.
It's worked out, isn't
but
it?
they're so impressed with it, and they love it. And So
EA is the game, is the...
No,
what is it?
I'm an executive assistant, so I work for a company that there's only so much I can kind of talk about. But I deal with a lot of their sport involvement and their charitable foundations. It's kind of really aligned with my ethos. And I just love it, but it's an interesting role. It's a challenging role, and it's just... We can get a bit complacent. Sometimes we want to stay in something that's easy, and I thought it was time for a challenge.
To have that push, yeah. This podcast is called Beyond 9 to 5, right? And obviously it's about women who are taking on non-traditional career routes, which you're basically the epitome of that, isn't it? Have you ever worked a 9 to 5 job?
No, not really. I mean, before I had my kids, I think I had a role for a little bit. But I've always, especially for the last 10, 15 years, I've had like a couple of days a week, which would be 9 to 5. But that's because you've got to keep your bread and butter, especially for things like COVID that happened. But that helped support me have the freedom to do the presenting and the travel blogging and the writing and things like that. So we've got to have a little bit of sensibility.
Yeah, exactly.
To be able to find these other roles.
And I think, working non-traditional careers has its ups. It also has its downs, I think. Challenges, and vice versa. I think one of the main things with having a non-traditional career is that vagueness about what your next level is, right? So in a traditional role, when your next promotion is coming, literally the next step. But
you're protected as well.
You're protected as well, isn't it? But if you're not 9 to 5 and you're, non-traditional in the way you work, then even that personal ambition, what's my next level? What's my next job? What else can I do? Can be a bit of a challenge, isn't it?
It can be a bit of a challenge, but also in some of these more creative roles, they are great. They're so fulfilling, but they can stop within seconds.
Yeah.
And we also have a responsibility to keep food on the table, to keep a roof over the head, which is why, and I think my kids always liked that I found that balance of, it was kind of 50-50 doing both. And I think I would have had such anxiety not having
that steadying.
But I like the balance of it all. Yeah. But also, I mean, we're talking about a 9 to 5 and then constantly looking for the next promotion. Do we need to?
Yeah.
I mean, why can't we just say, I really enjoy what I'm doing, but I'm not frazzled, and I can actually be present for my kids, for my dog, for my friends. It doesn't always have to be about your kids. You're your own person as well, but to be around for your friends, to be around for yourself. We don't have to. If you want to constantly strive, you can do, but it's okay to just exist sometimes and not make yourself a complete nervous wreck, because who's that helping? What's the point in having a big salary if you're useless?
True. And I think usually when people talk about 9 to 5, they think, okay, 9 to 5, you go to work in the morning at 9 and finish at 5 or whatever. But for me, beyond 9 to 5 isn't just that you have a business or a career out of it. I think you can be beyond 9 to 5, even in a 9 to 5 job. I think for me, it's not just the job I'm thinking about. It's about not conforming to the job. Even if you have a 9 to 5 career, your mindset, you should have the option to decide, well, this is enough for me, or I can do this job 9 to 5, but I can do X, Y, Z. I can be more present because of this job, if that makes sense. So that word beyond isn't really you're tied to your job schedule, if that makes sense.
It's
more about your mindset.
The box
yes, outside
career.
the box concept, And again, within the protection of a steady employer, there is so much scope to learn and to practice and to develop skills in a, should I say, safe and predictable environment. You can do all those things, and I think that's wonderful. When women talk about success, I've asked a few of my guests on this podcast about what success means for today's woman. What's your definition of it, of success?
It's a toughie. For me, I would say success is feeling comfortable with who you are. It's not about what you're wearing or who you're wearing, or it could be that you've got money in your bank account, but you've got to be comfortable with yourself. Yeah. If you feel there's no point being on a £300,000 salary if you're constantly chasing your tail and you don't feel comfortable. I think being comfortable with who you are, and we've got to remember that we can be anything we want to be these days, but we need to be happy with that. Not just looking at somebody on TikTok who is killing it and going, I want to do that. Well, why? It's somebody else's dream.
Somebody else's life. Yeah. For me, success is freedom. And I use that word, right, because the weird thing, I did a poem. I don't know whether you know I write poems as well, but I was thinking about it the other day. I think for me, success is freedom. And that is freedom without an adjective to it. So it can't be career freedom. It can't be financial freedom. Because for me, the moment you add another word to that word freedom, it's no longer freedom.
It's kind of tied up with something.
It's tied up with something. Yeah. So if you're looking for career freedom, that means you have to have that career to get that version of freedom. And the fact that you're tied down chasing that career automatically means you're no longer free.
Okay.
Now, your next question will probably be, then what the hell do you, is that allowed to say what the hell?
Yeah.
What the heck? I told you we're clunky here. You might go like, what then
there
do you mean?
There are worse things you could say.
What then do you mean by freedom? And at the moment, I'm enjoying finding out. If that makes sense.
I like that.
So I think when I think I'm successful, because that's my definition of success. I think I'm successful now because for now I feel like free.
I think
ish.
We're all free.
The freedom to chase the freedom also.
I think something that I would add onto what success means, and it's up there with having freedom. I used to always ask my guests on my book show, because it was on a mental health platform. I said, give me 3 of your favourite tips on how to keep yourself kind of sane and happy and, keep in check with your well-being. And it all boiled down to having purpose. I think success for me is having purpose.
Purpose, yeah.
If you have a purpose, even if it's to go on a particular holiday, or if it's to make sure that so-and-so's happy, or, find a purpose. If you find a purpose and you've got goals, then you can move forward. Yeah. And I think that's
Shall
important.
we combine then and say that freedom,
purposeful
that success,
freedom.
Yes, or freedom to follow your purpose. That's the definition of success. Bam! That's a mic drop there.
Nailing this.
Isn't it, right?
Shall I just grab this and throw
I know. I don't think Shawnee will like that.
No, I don't think she would either. Please don't
so
do this,
success
guys.
is a freedom to follow your purpose.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. I like that one.
Nailing this.
I know, right?
I love this.
Introducing Health Mary app. Health, well-being and lifestyle solutions for women by women. Download the app. It's free and it's all the girl power you need. Do you know what? I want to ask you, have you read any books recently? Because I know you're a bookie, so pick one. You're going to have a hard time telling me what's your recent favorite one is, I know, but yeah.
Do you know what? I mean, I do read all the time. There's some incredible ones, and I love a book where you finish it and you go, I just need to go for a run and think this through and just kind of digest what I've heard. And there's lots of books like that, and some of them are a bit more particular to me because of my own experiences. But if I was to recommend a book that I just love, that I think it might be a bit more broad, one of those ones where you just go, brilliant book, everybody will love it. I read recently, it was by an author called Natasha Pulley. It's called The Mars House.
Mars House.
Yeah, it's kind of... Have you heard of it?
No.
It's slightly dystopian. So it's like the world is crashing, you know. California's already gone, London's underwater, and so bit by bit we're having to inhabit Mars. And all these, the Martians are saying, yeah, it's fine, we know you need to take refuge on our planet. The problem is it's about integrating all the humans onto Mars, and the complications because of the gravity and how people have to conform to keep people safe. And yes. it's very clever, and it's kind of throwing on its head the way that we sometimes there are lots of arguments around, you know, taking in refugees to various different countries and whatever problems there may be or whatever problems people create. But it's interesting seeing it from a completely different perspective. Yeah. In a dystopian society where, because humans are so clunky, you know, one wrong move and we can squish a Martian. So you've got to wear, do you actually wear these suits to keep you weighed down? Or do you, and they call it like an aptic suit or something like that. And it's all the politics around how people are actually scared of these refugees coming in from Earth.
Basically raising a mirror to our own selves, isn't it? When we have when we get anxious about having new people in our space, or you know, coming into our communities and things, all of those complicated feelings and anxieties that go with it, I imagine. I
think it really throws it on its head, and it gets you thinking. And also all these people who live in Mars, you know, they're trillionaires. They run things very differently. Right, and it's just... And there is one guy who's a human who ends up potentially marrying this trillionaire who's kind of a bit... essentially a PM.
A Martian,
yeah. And it's... Can their marriage rectify what people think about mixing humans with Martians and things like that, and it's
interesting. I'm gonna leave the link to the book in the description on this podcast. It'll be a good one, and I'll be looking forward to reading it as well. I read one of the books that I've read recently that really resonated with me is this book called The Richest Man in Babylon. Have you read it before?
I've heard of it, not read it. Should I?
It's a really, really good book, and it's talking about this guy who is the richest man in Babylon. At the time, Babylon was the city to be, so he was almost as rich as the king of Babylon, and how he started from humble beginnings and your relationship with wealth and money and everything. He tells the story goes on, and you really learn really valuable things like, you know, respecting yourself, respecting money, how to manage money and don't let it manage you and all of that. But I think there was this human element about how, in a way, our one's initial thought about what money should do for you, it's not always what we think, right? It doesn't always necessarily give you happiness or freedom, and that once you have enough of it, you're almost going to be in a constant wrestle, if that makes sense.
Possibly needing more.
Or for possibly needing more, or fear of having less. And yeah, a really interesting book where I thought it was going to be lessons on how to, you know, make money or gain wealth, but actually it's packed with life lessons. I love that book.
We all seem to think, I mean, money does solve some problems. It creates a lot more as well.
True,
but we all think everything would be better if we're rich, but it's not always the case. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a lot more comfortable to cry on a Bentley than it is a bus, but you know, it's it's a tough one.
It is a tough one.
I like opening like questions like this and debates because you know, we all have different opinions.
Yeah, but because I also think that we should be defining success, right? It's one of those things. As a teenager, as a young woman growing up, I never actually heard anybody, my grown-ups at the time, talk about what success means. I don't think we talk about it enough to our children, and we don't speak to them directly enough about it.
I do a lot.
Right? A lot of people, yeah.
Because I don't want... It's so easy for young children to kind of see somebody with money, especially on social media, or see their friends who have got money in like flashcards and things like that. And I'm like, when was the last time they spent time with their dad?
Yeah.
When was the last time you did that? What's more important to you?
Yeah.
And
that's the question, isn't it? What's more important to you? What's your purpose, right? And how free are you to take that on? But speaks to my point. We need to be having those conversations with our young ones. But then I guess what I'm saying is that in order to have that conversation, we kind of need to have an idea of what that means to us. And like I said, for me, I started mulling that over in my head. What is success? And
it's freedom.
And it's freedom, a purposeful freedom. And and I'm still learning. And to be honest, that definition may evolve. I think it's evolving as well, isn't it?
Constantly. And I think
evolving what we perceive as success.
And what we see as success now might change in 5 years. What we see as success in 5 years might not even exist yet.
Yeah, that's the thought.
But we can evolve, and that's the point. It's, 30, 40 years ago, you had an opinion, you stuck with it.
Yeah.
Until you were
in
your
30,
ripe old
40
age.
years ago, for a lot of women, success was getting married and having a good home and a husband and a home to tend. Not always true for everyone, because there were, as per your grandmother, and who didn't quite completely fit the mold. But I'm just saying, generally, even as a society, that definition is constantly evolving of what success means for each group.
That still is what some people see as success, because they are free to
choose it. Yes.
Yeah. But it's having the choice, not being told they have to do it. And
That's
I think
right.
that's the difference.
Yeah, that's the difference, isn't it? We so nailed it, right? That freedom to find your purpose and follow it, isn't it? Hazel, every episode I ask all my guests to leave a quote affirmation in the evergreen book. Right, so the guest before you has written, "What if I fail? Oh, but darling, what if you fly?" I love this.
Yeah, that's from the Horse and... what's the book called?
I don't know this quote, actually.
Yeah.
It makes sense,
Yeah.
and I think I've seen versions of it. But this is a good one, isn't it?
Yeah.
It just speaks of the opportunities that could happen if you just take a step forward.
I love that, though. You don't know. I mean, it's better to try something. Yeah. You might fail, but at least you tried. At least you know. Yeah. And you might learn for next time. Yeah. But what if you didn't fail? And
what if you fly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
I've got a poem around this as well. And I would totally agree. Hazel, oh my God. Loved having you today. Our conversation has been enlightening, and I've learned so much. I know that that you come from a place of experience, of openness, of kindness, and I love that you brought it to Beyond 9 to 5 podcast today. Thank you so much for being here.
Do I get to put a quote in the book?
Yes, of course you do.
I can't wait.
Yes,
I'm so excited.
Yeah. Guys, I told you this has been amazing. Thank you, Hazel. And I'm going to leave Hazel's, the links, all of the recommendations we talked about today in the description. I'm getting good at this because I used to say blurb, leave it in the blurb, but I've been told several times that it's not blurb, it's description. Down below.
Can be a blurb if you want it.
It'll be a blurb if you want it. It's my podcast. Yes. Heck. This is getting worse.
You can do this. You can do this.
Yeah, right.
Nailing it.
So the description down below. Please have a look. Find me on Instagram as well. And also, if you're watching on Spotify, we're on YouTube. And if you're watching on YouTube, we're on Spotify. If that makes sense. Until next time, try and stay calm, stay cool. You've got this, girl. And keep going. Pursue that freedom to follow your purpose, because it's worth it. Thank you. Coming up next week on Beyond 9 to 5.
You never stop learning. The learning isn't just the years that you're given at school. Every day is a school day. And young people teach me so much every day. Yeah. This is my dream, because if I could just teach them what not to do in business, how to network, how to make their lives easier and better, pass on my knowledge, that would be my dream come true, working with the next generation.
There's two types of bank balances when you're running a business. There is your pound balance and there's your people balance, right? And you should focus on both equally. Right, because it's so important.
If you sit there and wait for things to fall on your lap, it's not going to happen. I networked in the way that I didn't even realise I was networking by taking my clients to Hamilton's. Yes. He then asked me to start up an interior design company within his showroom. Within a year, I doubled the turnover of the company. I then became a director, and within 10 years I owned the company. She looked down at her little girl and said, "This is a lady I told you about. Mummy wouldn't be where she is today if this woman didn't believe in me." And that's how strong it is just to believe in someone.
Wow.
Everyone needs someone to
Everybody
believe in them.
needs somebody like that.